Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm excited to be recording. Y'all know I'm always excited. Thank y'all for listening to season 2 and being super engaged. I've already been getting really, really positive feedback. These ladies are laying it out there, sharing their stories, dropping some damn ass good gems, and just all around badasses. So I appreciate everybody for watching the show. I do want to shout out again my South African sisses that are out there listening, and my Cali folks in New York, and of course Tejas here in Houston. Y'all, thank you for listening. We have fun doing this, and this is important for women to be all about telling their stories. This podcast is taking the story that you're supposed to tell, throwing it out the window, and telling your unapologetic story the way you want to tell it in your own time and in your own damn words. Warning, in this podcast, there is cursing and adult content.
Hello, my name is Brooke, and I am blank years old. My zodiac sign is Cancer, and my goal is to teach you that if you want to make a big change in life, you got to change things in a big way. You're listening to the Lorraine Infinity Let's Talk podcast, season 2.
And I'm Legina, the host. All right, y'all. So, Brooke, let's just get started. We're just going to jump right in. So, I met you through an online community. We have never physically met, but like I was telling you before we jumped on here, I just watch you in our co-working days, and you were all about gassing people up. You're listening, you're positive. I don't hear negative things come out of your mouth, but I see resources drop all the time. And you just seem like a positive person. And when I saw you vibing and me vibing just over video, I was like, I had to have you on the show. I want you to be able to tell your story. I want to talk about your businesses. And of course, you fit right into the theme of season 2 because you're right here in Houston, Tejas. Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Where did Brooke grow up? How did you originate into the human you are now? Like, what did your family life look like in your young adolescence?
It was shitty. It was kind of shitty, but it's been good since in the end. I have to, I was born in Chicago. Mm-hmm. My parents were young when they met and got married, and not too long, they ended up having some issues. We moved to California, and then when I was 7, unfortunately, we got into a horrible car wreck, and I was the only survivor. So that was a huge turning point, just foundationally. On a foundational level. And then I went to go live with my grandparents, and they were Jehovah's Witnesses. So, and they still are, really. So I got to learn about a different kind of lifestyle, more reserved, more conservative type of lifestyle. And then I decided to move when I was 14. And so I moved to Texas, and I've been living in Texas ever since.
Chicago to California. You lost your parents. Were you the only child?
Yes.
Wow. So you were orphaned at what age?
7.
At 7 years old. So you lived in California for about 3 or 4 years before everything happened?
Yeah.
Can you talk about the wreck? Are you comfortable talking about it?
I am. It's been a while. So I mean, at the time, it's so funny. It's not funny at all. Mental illness has been such a relevant topic lately, or it's come around again. I would say. I feel like mental illness used to be clinically, dealt with on a bigger scale before the 80s or up until, let me say, the late 80s. So there used to be a program called Charter Hospital, and they used to have those PSA commercials. Like the dad came in, he was like, where'd you get these drugs? Where did you learn to start doing drugs? And
Yeah.
the kid goes, I learned it by watching you, Dad. I learned it by watching you. And so my mom was in and out of charter. Yeah, one day she drove a car off a cliff in Malibu, California, and I happened to fall through the window and climbed back up the mountain, and I was the only one.
Wow. Mental health is just like it's hard, period. And then you add being in a environment where it's looked down upon. And like, so what I'm always talking to my friends about now is like, yeah, we're like these new age Black people. Like we talk about we're going to therapy and we're like, oh, we're having a staycation and we need to breathe and we got yoga. And so we are generationally bridging these gaps, and it's just so damn dope. It really it really is. So you're the only child, you lose your mom and dad, you move, I'm assuming, back to Chicago?
Yes.
Okay, so you fight tooth and nail up this mountain. Do you remember climbing up this mountain or anything?
Oh yeah, vividly. Yeah. I mean, I lost my shoes. I lost a tooth, and I was just like climbing up the mountain, like because I don't know, something about it. I guess it didn't really. I don't know, when you're in the moment and you have to climb up, you like realize like, hey, nobody's coming. No, I've been sitting here for a minute. No adult has, come over the cliff like you might heroically think or see in the movies, So, okay, I have no shoes and I'm missing a tooth and I'm 7 and I'm by myself. So let's climb this thing. Let's flag down traffic. And some ladies on their way down the mountain happened to pull over and gave me a ride to the bottom of the mountain to a safe place.
Got it.
Where some people could call the police and take care of a lost 7-year-old girl.
Okay, got it. Oh, well, I mean, I guess this was like prior to cell phones or like when cell phones weren't a lot.
They weren't a lot. It was like 1987, 88. So cell phone came around later, and then they were those big block cell phones for a long time. So yeah.
The Saved by the Bell cell phone.
Right.
I always like if you have or the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air cell phone, because they both had the same prop. It was the same.
Yes.
It was the exact same prop. Like I swear they used it from the same studio. All right. These ladies take you down the mountain, veterinary clinic, and you move back to Chicago.
Yes.
What did that look like for you?
It was different, very different. I mean, in California, there's no snow, and in Chicago, there's tons of snow. When I was in school in California, it was a Christian school, so we sang a lot of songs about Abraham and Jesus, and just like really friendly kids songs, This Little Light of Mine. So, and then when I moved to Chicago, we were Jehovah's Witnesses, so I couldn't sing any of those songs anymore. Didn't sing the Pledge of Allegiance, we don't, no.
So you got reprogrammed at 7.
Pretty much.
And did you live with your mom's mom or your dad's mom?
My mom's mom.
Okay.
My mom's parents.
And they had a good relationship?
It was okay. It was pretty good. So when I moved down here to Texas, I moved in. My mother's sister, my aunt, took me in and raised me as her own. And so I have a little brother and an older sister.
Oh, wow. So you moved from California when your parents passed to Chicago with your grandparents or your grandmother and grandparents. And you were 7 until what time?
Till I was 14.
7 to 14 in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I do have a question. So I'm assuming you were or are a Christian and you moved into a Jehovah's Witness house. What are some major differences? Did you convert? How hard was that?
That was very hard. It was very weird. I, in California, I went to a school called Coast Christian. And so I sang a lot of songs about Abraham and Jesus and celebrated birthdays. And then when I moved back to Chicago, then I didn't celebrate birthdays or holidays. And so when the class would have holiday parties, I would go to the library with the other Jehovah's Witness children and we would watch movies.
But did you feel like, outside of your grandparents being Jehovah's Witness, did you feel like a Jehovah's Witness, or were you just like going along with it because you're a child living in a house and that's what was told?
Definitely just went along with it. I never got baptized as a Jehovah's Witness, and I couldn't see how disfellowshipping, when you learn about Jesus and he's constantly forgiving and blessing people and like keeping the party going, disfellowship doesn't make sense. And they, at the time, believed that only 144,000 people would go to heaven. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense, because at the time, I think we were on 1992. So I was like, well, historically, okay, that's a lot of people. You're telling me basically like I have a 1 in 3 million chance of even getting into heaven, and you're saying that all of this sky, this never-ending sky, it can only hold 144,000 people. Like, I'm only 7, but there's just endless sky.
You were trying to do the math, and it just didn't make sense. Did you ever push back at your grandparents and be like?
All the time.
What did those conversations look like? I mean, yo, Jesus is real. Fuck you. Like,
I got lots of spankings. There were some times where, they would just kind of leave me at home and I wouldn't have to go to the Kingdom Hall. If I was kind of like going through if I was going through a questions phase where I would be like, let me ask you again. Why only 144,000? How many people are left? How much space do they have? Why are we getting up every Saturday to recruit more people to come into this religion if there's only 144,000 people going to heaven? Like,
so you got left at home quite often.
I did.
Okay, got it. And so what was the breaking point where it was like, hey, yo, you need to go live with your auntie? Or was your auntie like, I need to get Brooke from y'all? What was, and you said these are your mom's parents. So is this your mom's sister? Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Okay. So your mom's sister swoops in, or what happened there?
Yeah. So the year I graduated from 8th grade, I said, you know what? I don't want to start high school here in Chicago as a Jehovah's Witness. This is not okay. And so her and I got a secret post office box. And so she sent me, at the time they used to have open-ended tickets. And so she sent me one through the post office box, and I had collected some money. And so one day I pretended like I was going to school. And instead I just went across the street and called a cab, and that cab took me to the airport and I got on a plane. So, yeah.
And then you told your grandparents when you got there?
Okay. So while I was on the plane, they figured out that I wasn't, because somebody from the school called and was like, oh, she hasn't come to class. And my grandma was like, well, I dropped her off at school. So they had been looking for me. And then when I called my aunt at the airport and I said, hey, I'm at the airport. I'm at Houston Hobby. And she was like, oh, well, your grandparents have been looking for you. That makes a whole lot more sense. I figured you were on the way. So I caught a cab to where she was, and yeah.
So I already know that it affected your relationship with your grandparents, but did it affect your aunt's relationship with her parents?
It did. It did. And luckily, through over a period of years, they were able to come back together. Their relationship had already been in and out of rockiness due to the whole Jehovah's Witness. She was not Jehovah's Witness, and she says she was never baptized as a Jehovah's Witness. And so, there's definitely a line between our Jehovah's Witness family side and non-Jehovah's Witness family side. We're just now really like integrating more and being more like just a normal family. I mean, like people who talk to each other or like call each other or like, go see about each other when they're in the hospital.
Oh wow, yeah. So you fly to Texas, you're like, "Yo, auntie, I'm at the airport." And she's like, "Okay, grandparents. Okay, she's here." Um Tell me about when she picked you up. What happened from there?
Well, she was at work. And I did not tell her that I was coming. I didn't give anybody a heads up because I was afraid somebody would tell. And so yeah, I took a cab from, I guess, Hobby to the Channel 2 news station where she was working. And after work, she took me to, like, I think Wieners used to be around back then. And I know, it's a clothing store. Oh, Wieners used to be like a Burlington coat factory kind of place. And so we got panties and socks and toothbrush, and because I didn't come with anything. I had to pretend like I was going to school and make it look like. So I didn't pack a toothbrush. I didn't pack anything because I didn't want, if anybody looked in my bag, I didn't want them to see clothes or like hairbrushes and be like, well, why are you taking this stuff to school? That's not normal.
When you were at your sister's, not your sister's house, your mother's sister's house,
Mm-hmm.
did your mom and her mental health ever come up in conversations, or did y'all never talk about it?
Oh no, we talk about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. And actually her anniversary of my biological parents, their death is December 6th. So this is usually a weird time of year for us.
What's an experience that you feel like has oppressed you in some type of way?
I would say the two main experiences that I would say have really been recently and through my entrepreneurial journey. I got accepted to a pre-seed accelerator, and I had already been in business for a while before going into the accelerator, and I felt like the accelerator was supposed to be there to see what I had already done and encourage that. But instead, they saw what I had already done and accomplished and then tried to invalidate it and destroy my credibility. And there was one time when I was graduating from the accelerator, one of the directors was saying, "Oh, what can we do for you to help you move ahead in your business?" I said, "Well, I'm looking for investors." And so she was like, "Well, I know this one guy who came to the thing. Let's say his name starts with a K." She was like, "Well, Kay came to those meetings and he's an investor in your space." Well, when that gentleman came to those meetings, he looked me directly in my face and said, verbatim, "We would never be interested in doing business with you." He said, "We would be interested in doing with business like your colleague." And he pointed to a young gentleman, an Indian gentleman, who was giving a presentation. And I said, "Oh, okay, that's cool." So when she said, "Hey, Kay is an investor," I said, "Well, he told me verbatim to my face he would never be interested in doing business with me. So we don't need to bother with him." who else you got on your list? And she was like, okay, well, let me see what I can do. She called me back 30 minutes later with the K gentleman and tried to interview me and tried to get me to say things that would appeal to him. And we were talking at the time about doing a test market pilot with the Four Seasons in St. Kitts. And then once I pulled that off, the lady who was talking to me, she had a contact at the other Four Seasons that could introduce me to the whole thing of all the Four Seasons. So all I needed to do was get this one pilot program down. And so he was like, no, I'm not going to invest in you, and I don't believe in you, and I don't think you can scale this business, because I don't see where you would get the other orders from besides this one test pilot program. So click. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, fuck you very much. Thank you.
Where do you think that energy came from him? Like,
you're listening to the LRI Infinity Let's Talk podcast. It's that time of year again. Sale, sale, sale. Well, this year, let's spend our dollars with small businesses. Black and brown businesses, sign up for our live virtual market, and shoppers, make sure you're in our virtual shops. Check us out at pointedspaces.com and on Instagram @_open market.
Why did he say that shit to you?
Because I'm Black. I mean, we can dance around it and say whatever, but he was a white guy. And I was literally, I think I was the only Black, no, there was one, maybe two other Black people in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 people tried to introduce me to him. So he saw the favoritism that I had. You know what I'm saying? Like that he saw the how well I spoke up. Like when I stood up to give my pitch, I was engaging. I was, I was, I did. I had been rehearsing. I was one of the best pitchers. Like not to like, well, to
no, you don't have to justify it. Like if
okay, I got it. Okay, I'm theater. Okay, I literally have been trained to stand up in front of people and proclaim and project my voice to the back of the room. I know how to do that. That's within me. So he just was drinking a bunch of haterade, and I don't know. He just it's just one of those things that, like, if I had been a white guy and had a test pilot program with a brand name like the Four Seasons, he would have been hands over fist. I feel like he would have been hands over fist, especially knowing that I had a direct connect into the rest of the franchise. You know what? I'll even take it even further. So there have been some times since coming into Texas where I was once standing at a deli lunch counter looking through the glass, and some white lady just came and stood in front of me just like this. And I was like, I looked around and I said, nobody else sees this? Like her body was almost pressing up against mine. My face was so leaning over into the glass that I almost kissed her ass, like literally. Mm-hmm. And she got service before I did. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I just left the store that day. I said, fuck you, HEB. I'm sorry, HEB. You're cool otherwise. But that day, you didn't get my money.
Right.
So, yeah. And then one time when I was at school in theater at U of H, go Cougs, I was...
Real quick, shout out to U of H. Go Cougs. We love to shout out our colleges on the LRI Infinity Let's Talk podcast. We've been doing that lately. It's just like when you say your college, we're like, shout out.
If nothing else, go Cougs. Yeah. I was in U of H's theater department, and I was sitting we were at dress rehearsal. And so they were allowing us to sit in the audience if we weren't on stage. And I was in a spot where there were 6 rows in front of me, at least, with no people. You know those days where you're just like, I just want to be by myself. I don't really want to hang out with the group.
Yes.
Right? So I was having one of those days and everybody was like over there being groupie. And I was by myself. And this lady came, bent her ass again in front of me, like, and then just sat down. And again, I looked. And that was one time somebody actually did see, and they just started laughing. It was like, it's a white guy. He thought it was hilarious. And I was able to laugh at it, but inside I wanted to say something.
Right. Like, and then you have to process, if you say something, how is this going to be perceived? And you have to go through this whole, just to say, hey, yo, can you move over?
You know, I have at least, let me, my friends used to call me Tactless Brooke because I would tell you the truth. When it wasn't the soft truth, it'd be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, the ugly truth, the super ugly truth. I've made people cry with the truth. And so, yeah, the fact that I did not respond to her, I was so proud of myself. That's when you know Jesus and God is real.
So what's something that like often overwhelms you?
Life.
Right.
Right.
Life is overwhelming. Like particularly what in life is like when you're younger, now, something that maybe now you look back at and you're like, why the hell did that wasn't shit. Like what kind of stuff?
I've been so used to grinding, having like 3, 4, 5 jobs at a time that now I'm like, wow, I'm only running 2 businesses right now. And I feel like that's good. Sometimes I have to justify and be like, yeah, you're doing enough. You should stop taking all these requests. You should stop signing up for all these summits and everything. Like, you don't have any more time. You need to calm down. You're doing enough. Yeah.
So almost in your overwhelming, you've like justified it like, whoa, slow down. Like you don't have to. So does the overbooking yourself or underbooking yourself overwhelm you?
Overbooking definitely. And honestly, I'm having to learn to relearn my own time management now, trying to balance the Valorit founder, the Bias Rehab Center co-founder, and then the human being that is a sister and a daughter to another set of parents, and then so that's enough.
Would you rather be crazy rich or deeply in love?
I want them both wholeheartedly. Deeply in love.
Okay, why?
I think about Amazon and I think about Jeff Bezos, and no amount of money is worth as much as a person loving you. And you genuinely loving somebody else in return.
So when you're talking about deeply in love, does that include the heartbreak that can sometimes happen with love?
Yes, unfortunately. Yes. Because you can go broke too.
You can go for broke easily.
I mean, you can lose all your money. MC Hammer did.
MC Hammer is not the blueprint for how to manage money. We know that.
I'm just saying, you can have it and then suddenly not have it.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, no, you're very right. Do you consider yourself sexually enlightened?
Yes.
Okay, why?
Well, I was married. And so, I mean, anything, I was a very good wife. Mm-hmm. What is
a good wife? Ooh, what is a good wife?
A good wife is a wife who earns money, does a little bit of cooking and cleaning, and knocks your fucking socks off.
Hey, come on, good wife.
Right?
You were a good wife, so was he a good husband?
He was a good husband. He wasn't a good leader.
Ooh.
And unfortunately, I am one of those people. Being a type A personality, I kind of need a type A personality in a man. I need somebody who understands what it is to be the head of a household. And like, you can't wait for me to give you the lead. You have to be able to take the lead. I'm that kind of woman. Like, okay, you taking care of house and home. I don't mind making the lemonade. I'll like Fabulous has a song like he's like, I'm not afraid to ask you, and you always try to add to.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be like one of those women. It's like, yes, you got it, and I'm supporting you. You the head of a household, and you want me to put in, baby. Let me go ahead. I put in this one. In fact, I cover the whole thing this time. You be taking it out, care all of it all the time. I take care of this one. I want to support a head. I finally understand what that means to be the neck. To be supporting the head is like somebody who can handle it, who can do it. Like, there are some men who, once you get with them, they kind of forget how to be a human and like do things for themselves, and they become really lazy, like children, like, where they stop thinking for themselves, they stop doing for themselves, they stop initiating things, they lose their own ambition, and they just become middle management people.
I'll play devil's advocate in this sense. I also do think that sometimes women just take it on all and stop asking and stop letting and stop, but it's trained into us, the excellence of getting it done, doing it, which none of this is wrong, but I very much think that boundaries and expectations and being like, yo, okay, if I do, these are my household chores, these are yours.
Yes.
You handle that. And I've seen some really successful relationships where it's like, oh, I don't handle that. Ask so-and-so. That's his realm or that's her realm. And that's who you go to for that. And those are successful. But I, like I've talked about with so many of my girlfriends, I think, and boyfriends, love has to have a love language. Relationships have to have a language together.
Amen.
So what happened with your marriage?
My marriage, sweet guy. And let me say for absurdly, without a doubt, I loved being married. Loved it, loved it, loved it. It was so much fun. We laughed all the time, except for when we weren't. And when he met me, I was in school and working 2 different jobs. And I thought that he kind of understood, like, this is the pace I'm at, right? This is the direction. When you're working 2 jobs and going to school, like, I thought he kind of understood, like, I'm going up. And he was more like lateral. He was, kind of sort of like, just normal life. He just wanted to very normal, just 9 to 5, kind of gently go up. Where I'm, as an entrepreneur, I want to go for real up. I want to be on Shark Tank.
Y'all, her hand is like directly up. There's no angle. She's like, she's faced all the way. She's like, I want to go up. Like, I'm all the way up. Like,
that's it.
Wait, so is one of your goals being on Shark Tank?
Not really, no.
But just in the mindset of.
Right. I just want to be a shark, like I want to be in the profit. I want to be a billionaire. I want to be multi-millionaire, Yeah.
And he didn't understand that. And so the paths started separating.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. And so although we got along great, we weren't headed towards the same end. So we had to separate.
And you're officially divorced. How long have you been divorced and how long were you married?
We were married for almost 10 years. And the divorce was official in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any kids?
During our separation, I worked my way through from my associates through my undergrads and my masters.
So y'all were separated a long time.
We were separated, yeah. But, I mean, still we hung out, still had a nice relationship, kept it cordial. I mean, yeah.
What's your biggest accomplishment thus far?
Well, this new accomplishment actually just happened just the other day. That
Ooh, is this like new dish? We get new dish?
Yes. Exclusive.
LRI Infinity Let's Talk exclusive, y'all. Listen up, lean in. Here we go.
Yes, just announcing it. So we have signed, Valor It and myself have signed an agreement. We're partnering with the National Black Chambers of Commerce. And so they have built a marketplace / community that's going to live on top of our Shopify platform. And so what we're able to do is go ahead and bank solutions, like independent manufacturers, people who are ready or potentially ready for export.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a marketplace and a community where they can socialize and gather. And then from that community, we're able to sell. So import, we sell it to Latin American commercial buyers. So essentially, we're working our way through turning the import-export industry into an on-demand model, if that makes sense.
Okay, I want you to talk to do you have nieces and nephews?
Yeah.
Okay, Auntie Brooke, please tell me what you do.
Okay.
Y'all, she got to break it down a little simpler. You should see my face right now. I'm like...
Okay. So essentially, we're making it easier to import, export
goods on your online platform.
Goods and services
on an online platform.
Yes.
But the win that we're really needing to hear is that you've connected with the National Chamber of Commerce.
The National Black Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, girl. So you've connected with the National Black Chamber of Commerce and you're basically helping them help businesses import and export.
Yes.
But I'm just so proud of you. That is so good. I saw it and I was like, this has to be something big. So I definitely want to talk to her about it. Okay. Let's see. If you could ask one single person one question and they had to answer honestly, what would that question be? And who would it be?
I have to say, I'm looking for like a very esoterical, like kind of thing. I don't necessarily want to ask anybody anything from my past. I feel like those questions, there are some questions that are better left unanswered. And it's kind of corny. It's a Garth Brooks song, but I thank God for all the unanswered prayers.
Oh, yeah. I love that song.
Right?
Interesting. Yeah.
So I think even though my life in itself is not that great, but it still could have been worse and it's getting better. So I would like to go back in history and really try to make a difference. I would ask somebody, I feel like, man, Malcolm X, I'd want to talk to him. I'd want to talk to MLK, Muhammad Ali when he was, in his prime. I'd want to go talk to him and know more about how we as Black people can control our narrative. What can we do to be in better control of our narrative.
I think the stuff that we're doing now helps with that. And if you ever want to go back in history and ask people questions, it's not the people that made it to the front of the line. It's the women. Like Coretta Scott King, she probably could tell you more about what Martin Luther King was doing than he could. Because she probably organized, you know what I mean? And
right.
I'd want to, if we're doing history throwbacks for the one question, Barbara Jordan.
Oh.
And I'd want, and I just wonder, you know, like history writes these stories, right? And you're like, okay, thanks for telling me. But what actually happened? Like Barbara wakes up in the morning. How does she dress? What is she thinking about while she's dressing? How does she get to the courthouse? What does she think before she goes right in? Is it, okay, I'm representing women. I'm representing Black women. Oh, I've got to deal with, you know what I mean? Like all these deep, like day in the life of type situations.
That's what I wanted to do.
We had to go throwback and I had to ask one person, one question they had to answer honestly. The connectivity of everything is so fucking important.
Yeah, no, actually, and it's so funny you say connectivity, especially because that I feel like that feeling of the mistress or the wife's or the slave woman or what, I forget her name, the slave master's wife, it directly attributes to this Karenism that we got going on right now.
How so?
You're listening to the LRI Infinity Let's Talk podcast. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at LRI Let's Talk.
Generationally, I think white women cling to the idea of serving white men even through their wrongness, right? And I feel like that is deep rooted and is an offset, an outcome of the slave master's wife.
I could see that. No, I mean, it can, yeah. So connecting it all together, yeah, it makes sense because when you think of something, then you think of where it stemmed from, you think of where that stemmed from and where that stemmed, it like connects together and so many things do. They really do.
They're envious. You know, Bill Barr, when he was recently, the comedian Bill Barr hosted Saturday Night Live, and he was talking about like white women just sit down and get your talking to. Like you've been in this with us, and so white women, of course, didn't like that.
No, you know? They didn't. Okay, so we went back. We took it to the past. So, how do you think the world is going to change in the next decade, quarter century, half century, century?
Okay. This is going to sound crazy. I feel like we have figured out my business, the Bias Rehab Center. I feel like we have figured out how to systemically eliminate racism.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Sprinkle a little knowledge on you for a minute. I believe through systematic reprogramming, through rehabilitation, within the next 4 generations, because basically we've been here, the slaves and the descendants of slaves, we've been struggling for 4 generations. I believe if we start acting now with all of the programs, all the diversity trainings, all of these things, if we actively put it into a systematic format and started feeding it to white people and started gently helping them rehabilitate from the effects of white privilege, the pressure of living up to the privilege that they have is a lot. And I think that attributes to a lot of their depression. What I do know is how to provide a safe space and environment for white people so that they can stop making the lives of Black people so unnecessarily harsh.
Explain that a little bit more.
Yeah. Angela Davis She says it doesn't matter to not be racist. You have to be anti-racist. And so that's where the Bias Rehab Center is helping people pick up and understand, because a lot of white people keep saying, oh, I'm doing everything I can. And it's like, no, you're not. You're not actively alleviating the pain that has been institutionally put onto Black people. And if you're not actively being anti-racist, then you're not really doing anything.
I do agree with that. If you're not actively anti-racist, which it sounds so negative and it's this positive light. So I wish we'd find new ways to express. Stop being a fucking hater. Like, something, if we have to break it down to layman's terms, stop being a fucking hater to everybody. Who inspires you, and who do you hope to inspire at some point in the future?
I'm going to start backwards. I hope to inspire, it is always my hope that I am inspiring the little brown girls of Chicago, of Houston, Texas, for the little brown girls on the playground who are playing with white kids and being called a nigger and not knowing what that word even means. I hope I am inspiring you to think about, somebody coined the phrase STEAM. So it's science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And I hope I am inspiring children to believe, to understand that they can be more than what they see around them. They can do more than their environment may have to offer them. It's going to take some time and some work, but it's there. You don't have to just be what you see around you.
Yeah. And then who inspired you to be this woman you are?
Everybody. I take inspiration from Angela Bassett. You know, she gave a wonderful speech like a year and a half ago where she said, not only are we as Black women, not only are we enough, but we are more than enough. Inspired by Tracy Ellis Ross. You know, she's been doing some enormous things, and Sahara Yashidi, I think it's how you say her name. Yashidi. Okay. Been watching Amber Ruffin who works for the Seth Meyers show. She recently got her own show on Peacock. And so, you know, that inspires me, because she's like a awkward Black girl, smart, funny, quirky, little bit theater. And I feel like she's out there making a name for awkward Black girls in a way that, you know, is a different kind of element. It's even more nerdy. It's even more, you know, it's helping to us to not be so much of a monolith, you know, showing that we are a range of different things, just like white people.
Yeah, like literally, I know I can be what I want to be. Like, for real, though, we really can. We really can. And what I'm seeing is, generationally, as we push the needle forward, as we keep climbing, when you get there and you're in those spaces and the next person comes up, there's just less of a very real barrier and stop point, because it's like, it's not like I get a pass because I'm the Black girl and there's another Black girl in the room. But I also know that because there's a Black man or a Black woman or a brown, you know, an Indian woman, anything, that there's this possibility.
Yes.
And there's somebody in that room, in the picking room, that isn't like, oh, she can't do that. There's somebody in the room
who can vouch. Yeah.
And I don't want you vouching for me, because if I ain't shit, I ain't shit. But there's somebody in the room that is like, look at the paper, not at the person. Look at what they're doing. Look what they can do. Matter of fact, look at their swag and what it's going to bring your organization. And there's something so powerful about that. It's just ridiculously amazing.
It is.
So I'm imagining that one of the hardest days of your life was the day that your mother drove off a cliff, your dad passed, your mom passed. You climb up a hill, people take you down the hill. But there has to be something on the very opposite end of the spectrum. So what is your favorite day that you can think of that just was like, this is life?
Right after high school graduation, we went to Tortola as my graduation gift celebration sort of thing. And we were riding through Tortola. It's a beautiful island on the Virgin side, or not the Virgin, but the British side of the Virgin Islands. And I remember thinking, like, this is awesome. I knew that I was alive. I knew that I was here on this earth. It was the first time that I'd ever just realized, like, I don't have to be burdened by anything. Like, I had just graduated from high school and I had all this life ahead of me. And I was on this tropical island with my family. And I was just like, man, life can be just anything.
Okay, Brooke. So we are coming to the end of this episode. Girl, I've had so much fun getting to know you. And honestly, like, I've been nervous about doing season 2 because I'm asking a whole nother group of women that I have met passively or online. Hey, get on here and tell your story. And, you know, me, the guests, you, it's full acknowledgement that these are some topics that can be hard to talk about, can be uncomfortable, but they're so needed and they're so much a part of our story and they make us who we are as humans. Mm-hmm. And I'm all about celebrating it. And so I really, really, really appreciate you being on the show, dropping your gems and bringing your light and your joy through some really hard shit that you've been through. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you've done. Everybody, thank you for listening. And actually, if you're listening to this episode and you really enjoyed it, send me an email to LRI-Let's-Talk@gmail.com and I will send you a shirt. Tell me what you liked about this episode, what you cared about, if there's something transformative to you, and I'll send you a t-shirt anywhere in the States. Fuck it. Let's go worldwide. I'll send you one of the Let's Talk t-shirts. I really appreciate having you on the show, Brooke.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And as always, y'all, just remember as we're walking through our lives to tell your own story, be your own brand, live your truth, and stand in your moment.
All right. My name is Brooke Sinclair, and I'm blank years old. I hope y'all have learned that you can be more than what you are today, and that you do not have to accept anybody's future for yourself except your own. You just listen to my story as I live in my truth and stand in my moment on the LRI Infinity Let's Talk podcast, season 2.
Yes. All right, girl. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Y'all. Beep. Shit, I love music. The only type of music that I really just can't get down for is the like really heavy metal where it's like I can't get down for that. But anything else, depending on the mood, and I think it's very much like the Cancer in me, I'm like, beep. Awesome. I'm going to have you do the ending one more time.
Okay. Okay. And then just say, okay. I don't know why I was like, okay, she's going to point to me again. Okay. Boom. All right, y'all. My name is Brooke, and I am blank years old.